All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Well, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580, talk line number. If you have a legal question, we're going to answer it here on there. As you know, this is our Saturday legal show, weekend appointment. That's right, it's a live weekend appointment. So instead of missing work, if you thought, I'd like to run something by a lawyer and just find out what he or she has to say, well, in this case, you can find out what he has to say. 540-0580. I just talked to another lawyer last night who said that he enjoys the fact that I quite often don't know the answer to the question, but that I'm willing to say that. So that's the other thing we'll tell you sometimes, is we don't know the answers to some questions, and we'll point you in the right direction if we can. Or sometimes I do the think out loud where I tell you what my initial thoughts are, but then explain why that's probably terrible legal advice until we verify it. But again, if you're sitting there at home or in your car wondering, is my neighbor's tree encroaching on my yard and what should I do? Or my son was in a personal injury accident and he's lost his job and he was hospitalized for 2 months. Is the insurance company offering me enough money, and why would I even bother to get a lawyer? Well, those are questions you can ask me here at 540-0580. What else do we want to know? I just always want to remind you guys about Harrisburg Beer and Cigar over on Union Deposit Road. It's one of our sponsors here of the show. It's fun to have a sponsor you can use, if that makes sense. They've got great beer, really reasonable prices. In fact, sometimes they have stellar prices. But the gold star find over there is their humidor. It is a $500,000 collection of every cigar you can imagine from all the best makers. And I don't know what that is, but oh well. Do we have something going on here? I don't know. I don't know what that was. I don't know what's going on with our phone. Anyhow, our phone's working weird today. What's going on? Oh, they are? They're silly? Oh, great. Can callers get through still? Okay, they can. Good. Sometimes the phones do weird things around here. Anyhow, Harrisburg Beer and Cigar, if you get a chance, stop over there. It's 3842 Union Deposit Road. Tell them Carl sent you. It's an absolutely amazing selection of cigars. And then they have a really nice lounge. So if you have a wife or a husband at home, or kids you don't want to smoke in front of, you can fool them all by going over to the lounge and smoking your cigar there. You won't come out smelling, I promise. I don't know what else is going on in the world of law right now. The Supreme Court's basically done for the year. They've upsided the apple cart. Here locally, what do we have going on? Well, our Attorney General has declined to defend gay marriage in Pennsylvania. Also, we have the voter ID law going on. And we now have I believe it's the Register and Recorder of Wills in Montgomery County who's come out and said that he is going to begin issuing same-sex marriage licenses because he wants to come down, quote, on the right side of the law. So sounds like a plan, I guess. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Our courts are usually not kind to that, and I would imagine at some point somebody's going to enjoin him. But then again, if the right trial judge gets it, he may declare the law unconstitutional as well. What that's going to do, though, and what will be interesting, is this will push the question to the governor, because remember, the Attorney General's office has declined to defend it. So if any lawsuits arise besides the ACLU lawsuit that's already out there, what will happen is the governor's office will become the last resort. And currently, Corbett, of course, is going to defend those things. But in the next gubernatorial election, should we elect a governor who has a different view than General Corbett, then we're going to get a very different view from the governor's office, and the governor's office may decline to defend it. And the law, if overturned, will not be able to be appealed, because that was the issue in the California case, as you may recall. The Attorney General's office and the governor declined to defend Proposition 8 after it was overturned by a federal trial judge. And after the federal trial judge did that, they just simply said you don't have standing. In other words, the Attorney General or the governor of California would have to be the one being here defending it. And since they've chosen not to defend it, you can't even appeal the lower court order, because they've essentially said they're not going to forward the appeal. So that's what would happen here. If we had a governor with a different view on it, they would do it differently. Oh, yeah, I want to remind you guys about the Bob Durgan retirement celebration. That's August 2nd from 3 to 6 at the Radisson in Camp Hill. It's free. No tickets are needed, so you can just sort of drive over there. Bob's going to broadcast live from the hotel, and there's going to be little festivities with his retirement. That'll be his last day on the air. So if you got it in your schedule or can do it, stop over at the Radisson in Camp Hill August 2nd from 3 to 6 for Bob Durgan's retirement celebration. I know I'm going to go. Not looking forward to Bob's retirement, but I am looking forward to the party, if that makes sense. All right, maybe our phone lines are going to start working here. There's something weird going on with the phones today, and I don't know what it is or why it is, but at least some lines are ringing now. I should do what Durgan does. He just starts screaming when the phones do this, and I don't know why these phones do this periodically. I'll just muse about it for a second while we wait and see if we can get a call. Can we get a caller on the board here? We got one? We got one? No? Maybe? Nobody? Somebody? All right. What's Bob do? I quit. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe the phone line stopped working just enough times that he said, I'm retiring. That's what I would do. I did post on Facebook, by the way, what should we talk about on the show today? And boy, I got a lot of good stuff. Everybody wants to know about the federal government buying .22 ammunition, and somehow this is are they buying unnecessary ammunition to run the price up for the consumer? But some other military guy pointed out that, yes, in fact, they do shoot .22s in the United States military for target practice. They can, in fact, convert some of their 9mm and their other weapons to shoot .22 long rifle. And if you know anything about guns, I would tell you, I think a .22 long rifle is the best way to shoot or learn to shoot, because without the recoil, you can practice. Randy, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hey, Carl. My question is, a friend of mine got pulled over 2 nights ago, and
Okay.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and he got pulled over, and for making a left turn without a turn signal. Anyhow, once they got him pulled over, they asked him for his ID and everything, which he had. The passenger didn't have any ID on him.
Right.
However, they got him out of the car and searched him, and he had some marijuana in his pocket. At that point in time, they claimed they had probable cause to search the car. And when they did, they found more.
Okay. Your friend let him search the car?
I guess so. He said that they told him that, he didn't have a choice because his brother-in-law, they found,
Well, he does have a choice.
Since he already went ahead and let him did it, is he done?
Probably the police said we have probable cause, so we could just go get a warrant, but you should just consent. They can do that, and people routinely do consent, and they're okay. But here's the better question. How did they get the marijuana out of the passenger's pocket?
I don't know that. I guess once they got the passenger out, they searched him.
Why?
Don't know.
Why? Right. But here's why. They have to have a why.
Right.
You can't just pat people down and search them. So Two things happen. First of all, when you get the passenger out and you're a police officer, you have to be able to articulate a separate basis to believe that there might be weapons on the passenger, okay?
Right.
Completely separate from the stop. And you're only allowed to do a plain feel pat down, not make them empty their pockets. And if you feel something that feels like marijuana or a pipe or anything like that, you can't make them get it out. It's just to see if they have a weapon on them.
Right.
So it sounds like if they unconstitutionally search that guy, and that unconstitutional search contributed to this, there may be an argument that the evidence should be suppressed from the stop.
Right. Okay. I gave him your phone number to your actual law last night, and but I just because I listen to this show every Saturday here at work, and I figured I'll give you a quick call. That'd be something y'all could defend him.
We'd
on.
Absolutely be able to help him on that one.
Okay. He'll be giving you a call probably Monday, I guess.
Okay, yeah, Monday would be a good time.
Nobody in the office today, right?
Nobody in the office today or tomorrow.
All righty, Carl.
All right, boss. Thanks. Bye. 540-0580. We'll get back from the break. We'll take more of your calls. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Let's take a call here. Who should I take? Gary. Gary.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, my friend?
Yes, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate your program very much.
Thank you.
Listening. I'd like to add my significant other girlfriend onto my property, my home and my property. What's the best way and the easiest way to do that?
Your significant other girlfriend?
Yes.
And the purpose of doing this is to?
In case something happens to me, then she won't have a tax liability.
Okay. So I just want to be sure we're giving you good advice here. So this is a person you've been with how long?
Over 3 years now.
Okay. So let's just say it's a serious relationship and you're actually going to stay together and you want to gift her the property. Well, if you put her on the deed, it's not going to be a tax-free transaction because she's not a relative, okay? So you're going to have to pay a transfer tax on that.
What amount would that be usually about?
Well, it's going to be the probably the appraised or assessed value of the property, and it's going to be 2% of that, because that's not a tax-free transaction for transfer tax.
Okay.
Because it's not between a relative. On the other, so if she was your wife, you could easily do it for free, basically, except for a filing fee, etc. So if you put her on as joint tenants with right of survivorship. Then what will happen is, and she's only getting 50%. You're only transferring 50%, so I think it would be 2%, it would probably be 1% of the fair value because of the actual interest you're transferring is not worth any more than half of the market value of the property. But that said, once you put her on, if something happens to you, yeah, she owns it. She may still owe tax for inheritance purposes because, again, she's not related to you, right?
Right.
And her half is coming to her, your half is coming to her because of the death, so she's going to pay a 15% tax on that when that happens.
Okay.
So, the other way to do it would be for you to put the property into a trust, an irrevocable trust, and then the irrevocable trust would have you as a beneficiary, and then if something happened to you, her as the beneficiary.
That sounds really good. I like that idea.
So there's ways of doing that as well. But that's, again, something where you'd have to sit down with an attorney and go over some things. And, of course, creating an irrevocable trust means you're creating an entity that you have to do things with. Of course, the other advantage of it is if it's done right and the trust is set up right, you may be able to, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, end up going into a nursing home, but you don't own that irrevocable trust asset anymore, so it's not yours, and you'll be well past a look-back period. So you may be able to use it as an estate planning tool as well.
I like that. That sounds great. Your Lancaster office can handle that?
Yeah, you have to make arrangements with the Carlisle office for us to come down there because we only go to Lancaster and the other areas by appointment.
Okay.
All right?
I can do that. Thank you very much.
All right, boss. Take care.
Right. Bye-bye.
540-0580. Jay, you're on the air.
Liberal alert, liberal alert. Hey, Carl, I'm just curious. Why didn't you suggest to Gary that he marry this woman, and it might be so much easier?
Well, that's a possibility.
I often wonder, if you intend to live, if you're so tight that you're going to leave them the property, why not just marry them? I'm sure there could be a reason. But anyway, okay, the smooth and police chief up in whatever county that is up there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know what the counties are in Pennsylvania, so whatever. But what's your take on him? I know he's a one-man crew up there. I just think he worries me because he it's not like he is a Second Amendment, believes in Second Amendment and all that good stuff. But I don't know what he's trying to point out, especially with making something like that. He certainly, if I lived there, and I certainly disagreed with him, I don't know that I'd want to be stopped by him.
Right.
I mean, and then the other thing is that I read about him. Of course, as much as I am for marriage equality, this will tick some people off that they're listening. I kind of think what the judge or the official in Montgomery, I think it was Montgomery County, did was wrong in the sense that I do think they need to obey, the state laws, because everybody could start doing stuff according to their conscience.
Right.
And if you let this police chief do things he's already sworn that if they ever had a situation where they actually amended the Constitution and banned firearms, you can see what, these guys are swearing they'll be shooting everybody. So I mean, it goes both ways, and I think it's always my side's right. My point's good, but the other guy's point doesn't count. But what's your take on this guy, especially because he went to the trouble to make this video? It's not just his beliefs; it's the fact that he's not even smooth about it.
Well,
what's his point?
Here's the answer. I guess there's an answer. All these folks who are, what do we want to say, disobeying the law. The Attorney General just sort of says, I'm not going to defend this anymore. The Obama administration says, well, we're just not going to deal with health care being implemented by the date that the law says. We're just going to move it, right? I think it's happening everywhere.
Well, obviously.
So,
is that just a sign of our times? Like there are no definitive things. There are no, standards. It's all kind of willy-nilly and whatever we feel at the
whatever you can get away with at the moment, maybe.
But what about specifically this guy up there? I mean, I haven't seen any other policemen acting that way publicly.
There's, around the country, there's been some people making claims like that. But the answer is, here's the problem. This is the thing that nobody ever wants to acknowledge. You're a sworn law enforcement officer, right? You take an oath to defend the law of the land and the law of your state, and et cetera, et cetera. And I guess you're supposed to defend the law, right? And you're supposed to uphold the Constitution. So then comes down the law that says something like, thou shalt not allow gay people to be married, or thou shalt not allow blacks at the water fountain. And everybody laughs to go, oh, those are old examples. Well, they were laws on the books, okay? And so the people who at the time were sworn law enforcement officers, if I was a sworn law enforcement officer and I saw a colored man drinking at a water fountain, right, wouldn't I be obligated to cite him? And wouldn't I be obligated to take him? And let's go back even farther. If I was a sworn law enforcement officer and I saw an escaped slave, running around town.
I understand that.
But my point is, so if you're a sworn law enforcement officer, you're sworn to follow the law. And if you decide that you're not going to follow the law because it's unjust or wrong, that's all okay, but you might have to resign your duty. So what did the military guys? I think the military guys always do everything with the most class, okay? So what happens when a general gets an order from the president that he believes is absolutely wrong? He has to.
Usually he resigns.
He resigns, right, because he only has two choices. I am a military person. I have a chain of command, and my chain of command has asked me to do something that I will not do, that I cannot in good conscience do. My only choice is not to disobey the order, but to resign. So that's what I say. I think the military guys do it with class.
Well, all I'm saying is this guy. I mean, again, I'm actually a supporter of the fact that there's a Second Amendment. I think this guy's either a head case or there was method in his madness. I don't know what he's on the school board too. I mean, kids can see this because it's on YouTube. It's around. So what is there something mentally wrong with this guy or what? I mean, you can't. I can understand him being a Second Amendment proponent. I can even understand his personal animosity, maybe towards liberals and everything. But I can't understand him making this video, being on the school board, teaching kids to be. I mean, okay. I think the guy. I don't want to say stupid because but I think he's a little bit. Neanderthal is the best way I can think of it. Would we put up with a senator who does that or a congressman? No. We might put up with him sexting,
right? Well,
but not cursing on the. So
Wiener? Did somebody say Wiener?
I didn't.
Oh, I did.
I just implied it.
I have a picture on my Facebook page of Anthony Weiner holding a wiener.
Do you know, I know a guy, I just did a show, and the one guy who was supposed to be in the show from New York didn't do the show because Weiner was running, and he's apparently on Weiner's campaign team.
Oh, good Lord.
So I don't, but no, I just wanted to take, I just thought, I don't know what to make of this guy, this police chief, other than if I could do something about him, I would.
Right, right.
If I was his superiors, I would do something. Maybe they're afraid of him.
Well, I don't know. Here's the answer. Politics is politics, and you never know. But when you're playing to a local audience, let me explain it this way. They occasionally elect Ku Klux Klan leaders in certain political circles, right? But they're barely even up to state representatives anymore. You've got to get elected like the township supervisor. So then you can say whatever you want, and your little town of racists will vote you back in. Or if you have some other extreme view, your little town of whatever will vote you back in, and they'll cheer you the whole way. Like Sheriff Arpaio in Arizona, okay? That sheriff out there is really popular locally, but he runs against the grain of half the rest of his own state and half the rest of America.
Right.
But he can get elected locally again and again and again with xenophobic diatribe because that's what the locals want to hear.
He's doing it to get votes? Possibly.
There's always a question about do we vote in the people that believe what we do, or do we vote in the people who say they believe what we do? And it's probably always 50-50 on that one, right?
I vote in the people that are smarter than me. That's what I think.
All right,
okay.
Jimmy. Thank you. 540-0580. When we get back from the break, we're going to talk some more with Roosevelt and Jason. If you need to liquidate an estate or business, I recommend you call RJ Gold Auctions. He can buy outright or sell items at auction. RJ Gold can be reached at 645-0061. He purchases outright items such as medals, pins, patches, tokens, awards, and badges, and most historic collectibles. He can pay you right away. RJ Gold, 645-0061. He's at 3712 North 6th Street, Harrisburg, PA, licensed auctioneer AU 005798. Again, RJ Gold, 645-0061. And pins, collectibles, whatever you got, or if you got to get an auction going, liquidate your estate or business, RJ Gold, 645-0061. See you after the break. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. This is good music. I feel like I'm watching a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Shonen Knight, Japanese punk band.
Maybe it wasn't Kill Bill, maybe? I don't know where we might have heard this. Good stuff. Roosevelt, how are you, sir?
Not too bad, Carl. How you doing, man?
Good. What's going on?
I don't have too much longer to hear Bob say, "Get Roman on the phone." I'm going to miss that, I'll tell you. Look, your first caller was talking about how his friend got pulled over.
Right.
And, and it dawned on me, because of business and other reasons, sometimes I'm just as much a passenger in vehicles nowadays as I am maybe a driver. So what is a passenger's rights when a driver gets pulled over? That's my first thing. And second thing, you always talk about sometimes jury nullification. Would that have worked in the Zimmerman case?
In terms of... Okay, we've got two good questions here. Passengers have all the same rights as the driver, except they're even less free to leave, right?
Oh, true.
But the police can get a passenger, under current status of the law, the police can ask a passenger to get out of the car. And they can ask a passenger for ID if your state requires it. Since we're not required to carry ID here in Pennsylvania, since you're not driving the car, you need not produce your driver's license or ID. But they can still ask you out of the car. And then separately, if they ask you out of the car and there's some separate and articulable basis to believe you may have a weapon, they can give you a pat-down. And then if there's separate basis for probable cause to arrest you, then, of course, they could arrest you. But a passenger has a lot of rights.
Okay. If you're a passenger and you have a permit to carry and you're carrying on you, do you have to tell them?
You do not.
Okay. So if they tell you to get out the car and they pat you down and they find it, then what?
Then they're going to haul it off of you, and that's when I would tell them I have a permit to carry, because that way that dispels any criminality.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if you don't tell me you have a permit to carry, then the officer certainly has a reasonable basis or an articulable basis to say he has probable cause that you're carrying a firearm loaded in a car, which is a crime, without a permit, right?
That's true. That's a good point.
So he would have probable cause. You would have a defense to it, but you might as well. Why get arrested if you don't have to? The problem with that is before you could show it to him, once he finds the weapon, he's going to just place you under arrest and say, then I searched you pursuant to the arrest, and when I found your marijuana, even though you had an affirmative defense. So maybe telling him, ask you to get out of the car, and you say, okay, I'm going to get out of the car now, but I just want to let you know I'm a concealed carry permit holder, and I do have a gun strapped to me right now. Then he has a problem because there's no illegality there, right?
Okay.
Or no potential illegality. So I think that's probably your best course of action.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. That's good. Because many times you've talked about what to do when you get pulled over. And when that guy said that, I said, well, what do you do when you're a passenger?
I think if you're a passenger, you just jump out the door and run out through the woods. And the police will come tackle you, but here's the question: what have you done wrong?
Yeah,
they stopped the driver, not me.
That's true. Of course, if you get pulled over on the bridge, you might be in bad shape for running away.
Right. That Susquehanna's not nearly as deep as I thought it was.
All right. The jury nullification.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Do you think? Could that have applied?
I mean, a jury can always nullify, okay? And a jury could have nullified for, the fear is that some people would say the jury goes, well, the victim was black and the perpetrator was white, so we're not going to convict no matter what we believe in terms of guilt or innocence. And that would be the wrong kind of jury nullification.
Okay.
That'd be the one we don't want. On the other hand, the jury might have said, well, technically he's guilty, but we don't like the law as it's being applied in this case, so we're not going to follow the law. We're just going to acquit him even though we think he's legally guilty. We don't think he should have to go to jail because we think, wow, the whole thing was screwed up in a bad accident. We're not going to give him any. But I think in this case they did reach the merits of the issue. The one juror who's come out who was originally to convict on second-degree murder says that as she examined the law, she came to the conclusion that because the government failed to prove what his intent was, she was restricted to find him not guilty, even though she originally wanted to.
Okay.
And
now, how come you don't see more lawyers as jurors, or what do you think about having professional jurors?
The answer is a lot of people have suggested that professional jurors would be a good way to go. But the problem then is they're not really necessarily a jury of your peers. And so we have this tension somehow that we want to be able to just pull local people from the community who might not be co-opted by the system. So, there's always this theory that judges and lawyers and everybody who are in the system maybe somehow co-opted, if that makes sense, or at least so loyal to the system that they might make certain decisions that lay people who have no love for the system might not make.
But then it's not necessarily a good idea to have lame people who are so ignorant of the system sometimes.
Right. And that's, of course, that's the theory is that's where the judge is the safety check on the jury. So if the jury goes run away, the judge could then jump in there and say, all right, kids, you got it dead wrong, so I'm going to reverse your verdict. The thing there is, though, he can't reverse a not guilty verdict, even if you were guilty.
Okay. Now, how often do you see judges reversing verdicts?
Not very often.
Okay.
And that's because most of the time it's factual questions, and once a factual question's been decided, the jury's version of the facts are going to carry the day most of the time.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that info there, Carl.
No problem. All right. Thank you very much, Roosevelt.
All right. Take it easy.
All right. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. Steve, what's going on?
Did you say Steve?
Yes.
Yes. I got a story for you. This might give you a chuckle. I went to my cardiologist's office on Wednesday. New cardiologist. He'd been referred by another cardiologist, and instead of treating me, she starts just chit-chatting with me. And she decides, almost on the spur of the moment, that I'm depressed and I must be suicidal, and she has her staff stall me in a room while they call Spreaker. Well, I won't mention the department.
Okay.
But,
don't mention any names here, but go ahead.
They go get the police department. They bring a 302 warrant and arrest me. Three officers show up, arrest me. They search my knapsack. They find, I carry a handgun in there, but it's not like I was waving it around or anything. They confiscate that. They then transport me by ambulance. And mind you, I'm going in thinking this is just a doctor's visit.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. And so anyway, I get into the York Hospital. They let me sit there for 3 or 4 hours in the hallway. Someone comes out and says, "Well, we're not signing this, and you're free to go." But what is your take on all this?
Well, I mean, the answer is what made her legitimately think you were depressed? Anything? I mean, you must be having some medical issues, right?
Oh yeah, I mean I'm pretty busted up, and she said something. I can't remember her words, but it was something to the effect that, "How does this make you feel?" And I guess I looked down or I didn't answer or something, and she just went off on this this whole fantasy of that well somehow I'm going to kill myself.
Right. Well, only I can tell you is, I mean, listen, if she legitimately thought you were, okay, even if she's wrong, but she thought you were,
yeah,
I guess she did the right thing, right?
Right. I mean, I understand. She's got a kind of CYA, and it just is the way it is in the medical establishment.
Right. And so, I mean, I guess I can't blame her at some level. If she legitimately believed it. On the other hand, maybe she was being a little reactionary.
That's the part I kind of wondered too. But I know I have no recourse against her. I mean, this was her. She'll just say this was her really profound feeling that I was going to go out and shoot myself.
Right.
Anyway, I just thought you'd get a kick out of it. Now I am trying to get my, I have a little 5-shot 30, Smith & Wesson 5-shot 36, Model 36. Stashed in the knapsack. Like I say, I've been carrying it for years and years and years in there. It wasn't even in my possession at the time. It was just sort of sitting over. And I suppose they'll justify that as, search incident to arrest.
Right.
Correct? So anyway, I'm being given a runaround. Oh, the officer's in training. You got to call him. Well, now the chief's gone, and he's the only one that can. You get what I'm getting at here?
Right.
They're giving me the runaround about getting this thing back. Am I ever going to see this pistol back?
I would think you would. You would.
No, they were. On the day, I said, well, how do I get this back, while I'm handcuffed? And he says, boy, the chief might want to make you get a warrant from a judge and blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, you mean even a magistrate can't order this thing to be given back? And I'm thinking they can give this back anytime they want.
Yeah, I think they're stalling you.
So what's their problem?
Well, the last time I had this happen, we ended up in a whole hearing, and the judge ordered the return of the gun, but then it turned out that there was actually a 302 put in place, and so now we've got more complications to get the gun back. So we'd have to find out hopefully there was no 302 ever actually issued.
As far as I know, I mean, if someone came down to me and said there and says, we are not signing the 302.
Right.
So as far as I know, there is no 302 out there. Now, that's another thing. Is this thing actually out there floating in the ether waiting to come back and bite me in the butt?
It might be.
They did put a bunch of papers in front of me and says, do you want us to notify your doctor? Do you want to notify the cardiologist? And I said, do I have to sign these? And they said, no, you don't have to sign them. But, of course, they were all nicely typed up and everything. They're just missing my signature.
Well, let me know if you can't get the gun back. I'd be happy to start by talking with the police and seeing what they want to do. And if we can't, we can get an order from a judge. That's pretty simple. As long as you weren't 302'd. If you were 302'd, we may still be able to undo that and expunge it, but there'll be a little bit different fight. I got to go break, my friend. Take care.
Okay, I appreciate your information.
All right, bye. Oh, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. I think, Jason, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Carl?
Good. Were you holding for a long time?
Not really.
Okay, good. What's going on?
I have a tenant that got a little behind on her rent, and she is looking to go to the county for some assistance. And they want me to provide a taxpayer identification number, or a TIN.
Uh-huh.
And it's a W-9 form. I'm just wondering, number one, I don't think I have a TIN, and number two, do I need one being the renter?
So you're the renter or the landlord?
I am the landlord.
Okay. They're looking for a TIN. Well, if you're self-employed or you're not a business entity other than that, then your taxpayer identification number is your Social Security number.
Okay.
So that's what they're looking for.
Okay, so it seems like they're just verifying that I'm the owner of the house, and like I said, she's a little behind on her rent, and she's looking for county assistance. But I wasn't sure I wanted to give them, that information out.
Right.
So, government gets enough information.
Yeah. Well, you know the feeling, right? But
yes.
Well, got to do what you got to do. So think about it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, boss. Take care.
We'll see you.
540-0580. Trina. What's going on, Trina?
Hi. If two people have bought undeveloped property together and it's never been developed,
okay,
and in the meantime I pay it off, but before it's paid off, the other ex-spouse files bankruptcy, do they lose rights to that land?
All right. We start from scratch.
Okay, bought undeveloped land.
Bought undeveloped land from somebody.
Right.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we got divorced.
Okay.
And I've continued to make the payments.
When you say you bought it, was there a deed in place?
Yes.
So they sold it to you?
No, they did not.
Okay.
It was never divided after the divorce.
Well, I'm not clear on this. Okay, so this land that they had,
uh-huh.
How did they sell it to you?
We both bought it.
Okay.
We bought land together, got divorced.
Okay,
The land is still undeveloped.
So the two of you own an undeveloped piece of land, and you got divorced but never mentioned the property in the divorce.
Correct.
Then you guys just own it like you and I own it.
Right.
Tenants in common.
Right. But they filed bankruptcy in the meantime before it was paid off.
They did?
Yes.
So now you're solely responsible for it?
Correct. Do they lose rights to that land?
It depends what happened in the bankruptcy.
Okay. Is there since there is no dwelling on the land, is there a certain chapter they would had to have filed to protect them?
I don't know how they would have filed their bankruptcy. That's what I mean. And sometimes if they do a Chapter 7, it's a total liquidation, okay?
Right.
If you do a Chapter 13, you can keep things.
Right.
So I don't know how they would have done it.
Okay, so I'd have to find out which chapter they filed.
Right.
Okay. I actually have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
If I continue to pay the land taxes, is there an amount of time where they have contributed no money towards those taxes that they would also relinquish any rights?
No, nobody's relinquishing rights, okay? Until the rights have actually been extinguished. So if they don't pay the taxes, they just owe you for those.
Oh, okay.
So you probably have to go to a partition action. You probably need, this sounds like something we need to sit down with and look at to find out exactly what happened in the bankruptcy.
Right.
And if they truly relinquished it in the bankruptcy, of course, you didn't file a claim in the bankruptcy, I assume.
No, because I didn't know about it.
Right. So you weren't noticed on it, so that's interesting. So who's paying on the property now?
I am, and now it's been paid off. Right.
So to a certain extent, you may own the property free and clear, or you may owe some money, some portion of it back to that other person. That's something we could settle up in a partition action or a quiet title action.
Okay.
All right.
And then the Chapter 11, that's the one where they. Which one is which?
Well, 13 is a reorg. Like a Chapter 11 is sort of like a business reorganization. Individuals and small businesses usually do 13s and 7s. Okay,
so if they would have filed 13, would that?
I don't know what they did in their bankruptcy. I know that the answer. I know what answer you want. Okay.
Yeah.
You want me to say you own the property free and clear, and you can do whatever you want with it, and you don't have to deal with it. Right?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you want me to say. Well, guess what? I can't say it, sister. All I can tell you is this. You got to get down with a lawyer and map out exactly what happened. It may cost you a little money. And you may have to file a legal action to extinguish any rights they may have left.
Okay.
And they may be owed some value on it, but then again, maybe they're not. But it's not an easy answer, and you can't just sit around and hope that their rights are extinguished, because now when you go, you can't sell that property.
Right.
And you can't sell that property because his name's still on the deed.
Right.
So until we fix that, which is either to get a waiver from him or a quick claim from him, or a judge's order saying that he's not owed anything on it, or a side agreement with him, or whatever we need, you can't do anything with that real estate, and nothing's magically extinguished his interest per se.
Right.
But even if he has given up his interest, you still need to finish it off.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you. I know. I always like, you're waiting for me to say, yes, we can give you a new liver. And the answer is, now you're still on the waiting list. All right?
Yeah. Well, it would be nice, because when you're the one that makes 99.9% of the payments and the taxes, well,
in a partition action, if he still owns any of it, okay, say he still owns it 50-50, in a partition action, you get credit for everything you've paid. So what happens is the judge goes, all right, kids, 50-50, but by the way, the young lady spent this much money, so we take that off your side, sir. And if it exceeds your side, then she has it free and clear. If it doesn't exceed his side, then you may still owe him a credit.
Would that also count?
Gotta go. All right. I'll be back. When I get back, we'll answer more legal questions. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here. See you guys in a minute.